That's right, I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Hello, Knicks family. Welcome to the Just Nickin' It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen, and as always, we have a lot to talk about. Let me know how the video is looking. Let me know how the audio is sounding. Yeah, I know what it is when I'm down here in the boonies. Can you hear me, Geoff?
I can. You crisp and clean right now.
All right. Okay. All right. A lot to talk about today. We're definitely going to dive into the Boston game. We'll talk a little bit about the call for Tibbs firing before we even played one game. We'll talk about Detroit. We see them tomorrow, and it looks like that's going to be the first round matchup for us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's dive into the Boston game. Jeff, what stood out? What stood out for you? Let's start with an overview, and then I have some more specific questions.
Well, it's funny because I went into the game not expecting to win. I just didn't. Just had a sense that we weren't going to win the game, especially with how we played the previous few times against them, and then we had such a fantastic first half. I mean, we shot like 54% from the field. We really played, in my estimation, one of our best halves of the season. I thought that was that good. I was really impressed with the first half, but the officiating kind of kept Boston in the game, and I kind of had this feeling that they weren't shooting it that well from three, and they were going to have a mega third quarter, and they went on that quick 8-0 run to steal the lead. And at that point, when we went down 7, I think with like 6 minutes or so to go in the third, I was like, uh-oh, are we going to let go of the rope? Right. And we didn't. To the team's credit, we cut it back to 3, and then we Tatum hit that shot at the buzzer, and I was like, man, down 5, that's rough. But the whole that whole sequence, like at the end of the third and the start of the fourth, I think we had both Cat and Brunson on the bench at the same time, and I was kind of puzzled about that because I feel like with this squad, you shouldn't be resting those two at the same time. I feel like we need to make sure that one of those guys is on the court at all times, because we just struggled to find offense with both of those guys off the floor, and so that was tough for me. And then start of the fourth quarter, we'd make a big shot. They always had the answer. They made like 8 of their first 12 field goals to start that fourth quarter. And it's like, it just was very deflating because you're like, man, it feels like we're right in here, but we can never get to even. And then we had that Brunson comes back in the game, and we had that massive 12-3 push, and we took the lead. And I was like, here we go. I was super excited. And then, well, everybody saw it, so I don't need to rehash that part of it. But very frustrating way to end the regulation. And then we were out of sorts in that overtime period. We started the overtime with a long missed Josh Hart 3 and 2 turnovers, and we just I don't know what it was. We were completely in rhythm at the last part of the fourth quarter, those final 3 minutes, and then the stoppage I don't know if Boston made an adjustment that I just didn't see, or if we were just sloppy, or if there was just kind of a letdown from, squandering the 3-point lead with less than 12 seconds left. I'm not sure what it was specifically, but we just didn't look sharp in that overtime period. And then the lack of communication that allowed Sam Hauser to get that layup, tearing my hair out on TV. What are you doing? Like, that's like junior high stuff. And so real lack of focus in the overtime for whatever reason. But I think I have to stay consistent. If I said it was kind of a meaningless game ahead of time, I mean, it did have meaning in that if we won, we would have clinched the 3rd seed, which would have been better. I think psychologically it would have been better for us to have beaten them at least one time. And to lose in that fashion stings. But I mean, it is what it is. We can't change it. And for everything that went wrong, there are some things that you can highlight that maybe we can take some comfort in moving forward. But I'll let you get to your questions before I dive too deep into that.
Yeah. Let me know how I sound and let me know what the video sounds like. I know for me, Geoff, you're going in and out, and that could definitely be on my end. And there's also some
You look
buffering of your video.
you look perfect from here. So if you're having an issue with me, let me know. But I'm not having any trouble with you, and you sound perfect. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not experiencing the same thing.
Okay. Chat, let us know if you're noticing any audio or video issues on either me or Jeff's end. Yeah, Geoff, this was a game that, had a lot of meaning for Boston, right? They played all of their guys, and I think, I don't know for sure, but I would think it's about getting that psychological edge, just coming out, beating us 4 times, or at least attempting to beat us 4 times, so that there would be no doubt in our minds that so there will be some doubt in our minds about our ability to beat them. I was really impressed with the first half in the sense of the Knicks going to Cat over and over, whether he had Drew, whether he had Jalen Brown on him, whether he had Tatum on him, how the Knicks continued to go to him, and he delivered. Now, in the second half, we went away from that. I'm not sure if they made an adjustment or we just decided that we were going to go away from okay, somebody said there's a little echo on my end. I'll try to fix it after I finish. um or if we, let me check that out, or if they made an adjustment. But I didn't like the fact that we went, away, away from Cat. I love the way the Knicks played. I love the energy. I love the single and the double, efforts defensively. I thought we looked really, really good defensively. And Boston is such a good team, and this is how it is in the playoffs, where you can't make any mistakes. To your point, Jeff, can't let somebody get behind you and score a basket. You can't let somebody score in transition. You can't give up offensive rebounds. Like, those are things that can come back and haunt you. I don't know what the final rebounding totals were, but there was a few times where they got 2 and 3 opportunities at the basket, and I was like, this can't, this can't work. But anything else before we get into specifics?
Well, actually, the Knicks rebounded the ball pretty well in that game. I think we were at least plus 12, if not more, in rebound. That was actually one of the things I
Really?
was going to mention, is that the Knicks did a nice job. I'm pretty sure, maybe I have the stats backwards, but I thought we rebounded. There were a couple of possessions that were like that, but for most of
Right.
the night, I think that we protected the glass pretty well. But one of the things that stands out to me is that OG and Mikal both struggled, and Josh Hart, all of our wings struggled to score the ball. And I think Josh was 0 for 4 from 3. I think OG was like 0 for 6 for 3. And I think I think overall they were 2 for 15, the three of them, and I think
Right.
16 of 42 from the field overall.
Right.
It's really tough to win a game when you're all of your wings put up a clunker like that. And yet here we are in overtime, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
it wasn't a situation where we played our absolute best and it still lost. I thought we left a ton of meat on the bone and kind of beat ourselves in some ways, rather than them, and they shot a decent percentage from 3, and they took a lot. I think they shot almost 40%. They took their like 50 high volume 50 shots or whatever it was. But it wasn't like those first few games where they made like 75% of them from out there. So that was an improvement. And I'm kind of with you that Cat is a problem for them. Like, if they're going to go with the strategy to play a small on him, I thought in the first half, we just punished them over and over, and they had no answer for that. Now, conversely, I mean, the Towns giveth and the Towns taketh away, because he scored 34, but KP got 34 also, and on that one 3-pointer, Cat just didn't come out far enough and left him open. I mean, it's still a 30-footer, but I mean, you got to get out there. You can't fall asleep like that. And so it's just a gut punch. You know how I hate Boston, so it's like doubly rough from an emotional standpoint. But grand scheme of things, the sky is not falling. There's not, it's not the end of the world. Yes, we're 0-9 against the top 3 teams in basketball. That also means we're 50-20 against everybody else. So,
right.
So we have to keep all of these things in perspective. I was real bummed, though. I'm not going to lie at that, to lose that game. And the other thing that I'll say, though, it's funny because Tibbs is going to catch a lot of fire for not fouling. We've actually messed up that ending with both strategies, because obviously everyone remembers that we didn't foul and Tyrese Maxey hit the 3 in the Philadelphia series. Well, we did foul against Dallas, and we got beat that way too. Because remember, that was the game where Luka was at the foul line, they missed it, and we had all smalls in the game, and they got the rebound, and they beat us anyway. So I guess what I'm saying is, you can lose it either way. It's a coaching philosophy thing, but the players have to understand situation, time, and score. It's not like they call timeout and then they neglected to foul. This was on the fly, so that all should have been discussed ahead of time. And
which is what Josh Hart said.
And so again, a lack of communication, a lack of sharpness at the end of the game, and I'm not overly sure why. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like Tatum kind of uses a crossover move to get into the step back, and I'm not real sure why OG isn't just staying up on, like, if he blows by you, so what? He's going to get the bucket with no time left to do anything. Like, your job right there defensively has got to be a wall on that 3-point line and make him do something else. Now, it is a tough situation. It's a live ball. They got the ball out quick, to their credit, and it was kind of a bang play. And and again, sometimes coaches are willing to live with that. I don't think against this Boston team you ever allow them to shoot a 3. That's their bread and butter. That's what they want. Foul them. Don't foul them in a 4-point play. That's the other risk, though, right? If you foul and he makes it and you hacked him, then he might get the and one. And the way the officiating was in that game, I mean, nothing was going the Knicks' way in that direction, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I mean, it didn't matter. We couldn't make a free throw anyway. I think we were 10 of 16, but they shot 25 compared to our 16, and so that didn't help our cause any. But a lot of self-inflicted wounds about a team that frankly hasn't kind of figured out how to win yet, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, for sure. Tip said, he didn't instruct the team to foul. It's kind of what I got from his comments is that if it was an inbound play and his back was to the basket, he would have instructed them to foul. Because he got the ball kind of on the run, he was hesitant to make that call for fear of a 3 shots. Look, I'm fouling. I'm fouling. I mean, to me, the chances of him, you know, getting fouled on a 3, okay. He if he hits 3 shots, the game is tied anyway. If you get fouled on a 3-point shot and it goes in, I mean, what are you going to do? To me, I feel like the better percentage, now I'm guessing, I don't know statistically, percentage would be to foul in that situation. And Josh Hart said, In the prior timeout, they should have discussed, when we make a basket, what are we going to do? If we miss the basket, what are we going to do? Because Boston didn't call a timeout, right? They just brought the ball up the court, so that the Knicks can't really, get, set their defense. So for me, I would have liked them to foul and just take our chances. Even if they fouled him on a three, even if they fouled him on a three and he got, three shots. The other thing was Josh Hart being in the game, to take that three in, I believe it was in regulation. Like, I would have had McBride in the game, like just somebody else that could hit a three. Now, I'm not sure how McBride shot in the, during the game, but it doesn't matter. Like, there's some players, they can go 0 for 5 and still hit a big shot. I think
Or
McBride is one of
campaign
those,
or Landry Shamet. I
or
mean,
campaign or Shamit. I just think that I'm not taking anything away from Josh Hart, but that's a substitution I would have made. I would have had shooters in the game with 3 seconds left. What's your thoughts on that?
yeah, I was puzzled by that myself. I was a little bit surprised, but then again, Hart's the one who got open and got off a good look too. So I mean, and in overtime we had Cat and Bridges, and Cat should have taken the shot and didn't, and then Bridges didn't catch the pass. So it's always, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback and woulda, shoulda, coulda. I mean, if he hits the shot, and we've seen him hit those big shots before, he did it in the playoffs last year against Philly, then nobody says a word, but he didn't. And here you go. But I actually definitely agree with that. I think that leaving Hart in the game in that situation, especially with that little time left, if you're not going to be attacking the basket, if you're just going to be shooting a perimeter shot anyway, have your best perimeter shooters out on the floor. I mean, I don't, that was a little bit head scratching to me, but there were a lot of, when you lose by 2 points at overtime, there are a lot of plays over the course of the 53 minutes that you can point to. Well, if we had done this, if we had done that, they had 2 successful challenges. The second one of those challenges led to a 9-0 Boston run instead of us being at the foul line. So there's a lot of things that go into a game, and it's easy to focus on, that last possession. And could it have been better? I absolutely think it could have been, but crying over spilled milk at this point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I was just
I,
saying.
I, I think that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying I agree with you from a strategic. I would have had another shooter on the floor, but Hart, he trusts Hart, and Hart's done good things in those situations previously. So, it's always easy to criticize when it doesn't work, right? But yes, it is what it is. I would have played it differently, but that's they don't pay me millions of dollars to make that decision.
Yeah, I think let's talk about Mikal Bridges' play. I thought it was a bit uneven. I thought there was some shots that he hit that was just timely, and we needed him. We needed them, and there were other shots that he missed that we needed to, to extend the lead. Um, Played really good defense on Tatum, in my opinion, made Tatum take some tough shots. He just made them. I think the difference between Bridges and and OG, though, is Bridges played him tough and made him take tough shots. OG did a better job denying him the ball in the first place. So he got less touches, in my opinion, when OG Anunoby was guarding him. But again, I thought Mikal Bridges' performance was uneven offensively. Defensively, I thought he was fine. What's your take on Bridges' play?
I actually noticed the same thing during that 12-3 run in the fourth. It was a switch of OG onto Tatum that really made a big difference. And they went away from that in overtime. I don't think Tatum necessarily killed us in overtime, but that wasn't an interesting development. And then, of course, on their final possession, OG's, gets beat for the three, and doesn't foul. So, I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it, but Bridges did have his moments. He made when we were down 5, he made that little 13-footer that cut the lead to 3 that kind of got us back in the game in the last 3 minutes. So he did have some key buckets, but just overall, especially from 3, I feel like he was 2 of 6, but I think all of those shots were wide open, and he's got to knock those down. And one of them he airballed really badly. I don't even think it was in the right area code. It's so bad. So, and Bridges has to understand those expectations are going to come. Just because of the price that was paid to get him in the door, you have to. Boston is a big time game. You got to come up and play big time, but it's not fair to lay it all on his shoulders. Josh Hart's performance left something to be desired. I thought OG didn't have a particularly good game on offense either. And so, whomever you like best, I guess, or whoever you like least is going to be the one who gets the most ire from the fans. But, really, Cat was fantastic on offense, and Brunson was incredible also. And everybody else was disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah. Shout out to David Smith. Hopefully Brunson changes his approach and focuses on ball movement and no more hero ball. Well, I'm not sure what he could have done last game. Bridges, OG, and Hart all shot terribly. All of our wings shot terribly last night. I didn't see a lot of hero ball from Jalen Brunson. Look, he's the best player on the team. There are going to be times, like all best players, where he's gonna, take it upon himself to take a shot. You see that, I don't care who it is. The best player on the team, will create a shot for themselves if they feel like the team needs it. It doesn't seem to be hero ball to me. But just your thoughts on Jalen Brunson last night.
The only possession I can think of that I really had a problem with was the first possession of overtime, where he and I think it was Hart were right next, and he just threw a lazy, terrible pass that was a turnover that was just
yes.
Jalen, what are you thinking about? That's not being focused at all. But he hit a ton of big shots down the stretch that got us the lead. I mean, I don't think he played hero ball either. I mean, Cat got a ton of good looks and touches, and I think they fed him pretty well in the first half. They didn't enough in the second half, but I don't think Brunson was the problem last night. Again, we lost by 2 points, and we got subpar performances by 3 of our 5 starters on offense. Pick your poison. If you want to blame that on Jalen, I think that's a bit disingenuous.
Yeah, let me bring my guy into the into the building.
The legend.
Hey, okay. Hey, what's good, everybody?
I'm good. I'm good.
What's
How
good?
you doing?
Queen Bee, I'm good, man. I'm misbehaving out here eating after 8 o'clock at night. But I heard you and Geoff. I was like, yo, I gotta jump on, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Salute to y'all chat, man.
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna get to the chat. But for those that don't know, Uncle Freezy, Big Freezy, the creator of Launch Tears YouTube channel, my guy, just when I first started my channel, just calling me in the background and just keeping me focused on, what you're trying to do. What are you going to do with your channel? I think you're going a little. I think you're getting soft, Queen. You're not hitting. You're not hitting the issues real. Real
Right.
hard. You gotta be yourself. So that's my
Right.
guy. I appreciate you, Freezy, for all your support. But yeah, we was talking about last night's game, however you want to go about it. We were talking about, Hart being in the game instead of McBride taking that 3-point shot. Tibbs, OG Anunoby not fouling. Thibodeau preferring not to foul in that situation. If you heard what he said, afterwards. So just wherever you want to go with it. What was your thoughts on the game last night?
I agree with a lot of what you and Geoff were saying. Right. So I agree with a lot of that. What I wanted to point out though is I hate to be an alarmist, but what I noticed is when we lose these close games, when games get away, we often point to how the team didn't execute a strategy, or the strategy was not at the forefront of their mind, or maybe they have too many things going on and say a certain thing got away. Like, for instance, Jason Tatum getting a straight ahead 3-pointer in that moment, knowing the game before that, he scored 40 points in 3 quarters using that same offensive entrance, right? Straight ahead at the basket, get a good look from there. Geoff, y'all remember that game? The game with Jason Tatum had 40. He could have probably went off for 55 or 60, but he did because he only played 3 quarters. And for those of us that played, our coaches always tell you in late game situations, never let the opposing team initiate in the middle, in the center of the floor. You force them to one side or the other. That way, if they show you something that the defense is not ready for, you can trap it and buy a few moments and hopefully get them out of the play that they called. Maybe they audible into something else. We didn't do that. We let a top 5 NBA player isolate against our best defender. Now, on most nights, I'll take that bet. I think OG Anunoby is the defensive player of the year. I think he's a lock for all NBA defense. In my opinion, I think he is, because what he's asked to do on a team that's not a great defensive team, what he's asked to do to show up, to be the in-between between Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns, he's asked to do so many different things. And plus, in most years, when OG Anunoby is healthy, he's all NBA defense anyway, right? But to the point that I was making is, how can a team always have answers or excuses, depending on how you view it, about not being prepared in the moment when our coach hangs his hat on being the most prepared coach in the NBA? What that signifies to me is that our coach is not the most prepared coach in the NBA. And these moments may be too big for our coach. And I'm not sounding the alarm, right? But yesterday's game, in my opinion, right, was a case for the defense to move on from Tom Thibodeau. Because there were a lot of things that happened in that game against a very good team. And they had guys off the floor. They didn't have Al Horford, and Jaylen Brown was slowed, right? Now, the Knicks still probably played a top 10 game of the season, right? They still held Boston to 107 points through 4 quarters. But at the same time, that is never our issue, right? We know that we can beat bad teams, average teams, above average teams, and some good teams. But when we play great teams, it's not the personnel issue. It's always execution somewhere, where we always point to a certain thing that we're like, hey, if such and such does such and such, all of that falls back on a coach. And again, I'm not saying that Tom Thibodeau should be fired. Right? I'm not saying that Tom Thibodeau should be fired, but I think as Knicks fans, we should stop pointing the finger mostly at Mitchell Robinson not being available or Karl Anthony Towns rim protection, because his defense everywhere else on the floor is okay. But pointing the finger at Karl Anthony Towns rim protection, right? Talking about Mikal Bridges and OG and Josh Hart, maybe their offense is not such and such. These are things, when you get down to brass tacks, that you have to ask, what is the coach doing or not doing for us to ask this question, the same question in different games against different great teams, right? Why is it that we looked overmatched against great teams, right? Why is it that we look this way against Oklahoma City? Why do we look this way against Cleveland, right? Why is it that we look this way against Boston? This is 4 straight losses to Boston, right? And I do understand that the Knicks are finally healthy, right? But at the same time, how do we say this? The Knicks are finally healthy, and then at the same time say, no, we can't use the injury thing as an excuse. Because to me, it puts us in this pendulum of, are we making these excuses because we value the fact that we're a respectable franchise and don't want to rock the boat, say by changing coaches or trading a player or something like that? Or is it that we feel like there are no better options out there that can coach this team based on the personnel that we have? Personally, I don't want to go that far thinking that, right? My thing is, there are games, this is cut and dried. Our coach is prepared for one thing. When the opposing coach shows him something else, he can adjust. And
you pausing too long. No, you pausing so long. I'm thinking you finished with your thought. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
Go ahead. Finish.
Okay. So if this is indeed the case, that Coach Tibbs is prepared for one thing, like he sees what the tape shows him, and then when we get into the game, the other coach adjusts to what Tibbs shows, and our coach is not able to adjust to the adjustment, then when the playoffs get here, the playoffs is just going to be a exercise in a repeatable offense that we'll see over and over and over. Now, the adjustment may be different, but the fact that our coach can't adjust to an adjustment is what's going to have us frustrated. The example is the Cleveland game, where you have Cleveland on the ropes. We go into halftime, they come back out, and Cleveland knows DeLon Wright can't go left. Just by playing one half of basketball, they know DeLon Wright can't go left, right? So regardless of what Tom Thibodeau was trying to run on offense, they figure out DeLon Wright can't go left. So now they have 2 non-defenders crowding the ball on DeLon Wright. They have Donovan Mitchell, who's not a defender, Darius Garland, who's not a defender. Mm-hmm. They're pressing him, forcing him to go left. Now, regardless what you drew up in the locker room, is not going to work. All the cuts, right? All the cuts and all the secondary actions on the backside of the play are null and void, because you have a guard that's picking up the basketball 35 feet away from the rim, and you can't get into your offense. But we didn't have an adjustment for that. What if what
would have been the adjustment? What would you have liked to have seen?
In the Cleveland game? What I would like to what I would have preferred is to have played both guards together. Cameron Payne and DeLon Wright at the same time. Whereas if you see the look once, hey, listen, that's on me. You got me. You tricked me. But the second time down, now I'm initiating with Cameron Payne, right? And we know Cameron Payne.
Payne played that game?
I thought he was out that game. I think
Cameron Payne.
Tyler Kolek.
He was out that
Tyler
game.
Kolek. That was the game where everybody was out. Yeah, Tyler Kolek. Okay. So I would rather may have seen him and Tyler Kolek together, right? And then that way you can kind of make the adjustments there, or you can offer up a smaller lineup, right? Where now you can initiate different or you can have guards screening for guards like Clay and Steph used to do. You crowd the ball, Clay comes across with a ghost screen. You have to acknowledge Clay, because if he stops right there, he can shoot. But if he continues his ghost screen, you drag the defenders over and they still have to monitor your guard. Also, in those cases, when you're crowding the ball, what I wouldn't do is bring your big all the way out 35 feet, 40 feet away from the rim, and you're bringing a big defender and he's going to sag. Now, even if you do rub that man off, you have a big defender in front of you, and now you still can't initiate. In just that slight pause, now the guard is recovered. So it's like these small things that Tibbs faces on a nightly basis. I don't believe is a personnel issue. I think Mikal Bridge is a fine player. I think OG is a fine player. I just think they're probably,
but they got to perform, Freezy. Like I don't disagree with you, particularly in the Boston game. There's some things I would have liked to have seen, and we talked about that. But he has to make the adjustment, but the players have to also come through. OG, Hart, and Mikal Bridges was, I'm not sure what it was, but they didn't shoot well last
was a
night. That's
mess.
not on Tom. Yeah, that's not on Tom Thibodeau.
Right.
Like, they knocked down 2 more shots, we win that game. Mikal Bridges don't throw catches the ball. We, maybe we get a possession, maybe we're able to tie that game. So I agree with you. On that last play in regulation, I would have liked to have seen McBride in the game. So this is the thing, to be able to differentiate when you watching the game, because the coach can make the right call and you still lose the game because the player doesn't
I've been in those situations before.
or execute, or a player can execute and save the coach because that wasn't really the right move, but he hit the shot. And so,
we've been in those situations before too.
We've been in those situations as well, where you have really, really good players. And this is not just Thibodeau, just you have coaching, period. You have really good players that cover up your mistakes. But I do think it's a little bit of both, particularly in the Boston game, not getting the shooting that we needed. And these little things, having Hart in instead of McBride, not fouling, not fouling Tatum. Josh Hart spoke to communication. They didn't call a timeout. So when the Knicks called the timeout, figuring out if we make the shot, this is what we're going to do. If we miss the shot, this is what we're going to do. Those things are talked about in the previous, in the previous. So I agree with you, but what I don't agree, not just you, the sentiment that it's all Tom Thibodeau, and that this is a roster that is good enough as presently constructed to win a championship if Thibodeau would just make certain changes. I'm not so sure about that. As good as OG Anunoby has been playing, once he got against a really good defensive team. Now I don't know. This could have just been a bad night. This could have just been a bad night for OG Anunoby, or it could just be he's just not one of them guys that you're gonna just put the ball in his hands and be like, go get me a bucket. So I agree with you in terms of Tom Thibodeau. Certain things he does I don't like. Certain, as you said, adjusting to the adjustments. But I have my concerns about whether or not this roster can't use some tweaks. I'll put it that way.
May I ask
Can't
you a
use some
question?
tweaks.
So when it comes to, in terms of, is this team good enough to win a championship? How far away do you think we are? And then the second part is, how does not being able to beat great teams in the regular season at all compared to what we're thinking is a team that may or may not be ready for winning a championship? Is not being able to beat a great team in the regular season the heavy part of the equation when we judge whether this team can win a championship or not?
So you're going in and out. My internet is not that great. Can you ask the second question again?
How much gravity do you give how much gravity do you give to the Knicks not being able to beat great teams in the regular season?
I give a lot of gravity to it. I give a lot of gravity to it, but I'm not one who thinks it's only the coach or one who thinks it's only the players. I think it's a little bit of both. The sentiment I'm getting from the Knick community is that it's just Tom Thibodeau why the team has not been able to beat these teams, right? And I think Tom Thibodeau has something, to do with it. But the players have to play. The players have to hit their shots. The players have to come out with a sense of urgency. To me, the Cleveland game and the Boston game we just played were the only two games where I thought the Knicks were even competitive.
Right. Right.
And you could say, well, that could be because, the game plan wasn't good enough. That could be that the coach has lost the locker room and they're not, playing hard for them. Like there's a lot of, ways to explain it. But in addition to Tom Thibodeau, I don't think this roster is better, in my opinion, than Boston or Cleveland. I don't think it is. I don't
Okay.
think I don't think the bench depth is there. And I just think it's just really hard when you have Brunson and Cat to be an adequate defensive team. You got to put out so much. Those other three players have to put out so much on the defensive end to make up for those two. And you need them to hit shots. You need them to hit shots too to help keep the defense honest so that Cat and Brunson can have room to operate. So yeah, I think part of it is Tibbs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong in that respect, but I also think that it's not all Tibbs. He's just not maximizing the roster. This is a championship roster that he's not maximizing. Can you get more out of this roster? I do think we can. Right. I think Bridges have a little more that he can give. What can we do to, do you run him with the second team? Like, what can you do so that Bridges can have a little more, we can see a little bit more of what he can do offensively in terms of ball handling and in terms of creating for himself, creating for others. Can we maximize that a little more? Yes, we can. But me personally, after watching them the entire year, watching Boston, watching Cleveland, I don't think we're as good as those teams. It doesn't mean that we can't beat them, like that you can't raise your level of play and beat them, but I don't think that we're as good as they are.
Okay. So my thoughts on that have been
and then Geoff, let's let Geoff weigh in a little bit. Go ahead, Geoff.
I understand the frustration, but I'm not sure the difference. If our record was the same, but we were 5-4 against those teams and had lost to Washington 4 times, is the conversation the same or is it different? Like, I think I'm not saying it's not a concern because it is. I mean, you have to look at it. And going into the playoffs, I think you're at a psychological deficit when you got swept by a team. I think that's definitely true. But I mean, it's the playoffs are different. You get a chance to focus entirely on a team. And let's remember, for all of the criticism that Thibodeau gets, he outcoached JB Bickerstaff in the Cleveland series just a couple years ago, and looking like he's going to be up against him in the Detroit series again. So, Taylor Jenkins got shown the door in Memphis a week and a half or so ago. How's that working out for the Grizzlies? The Nuggets, 5 games before the end of the season, just ditched a championship caliber coach in Mike Malone. How's that going to work out? Like, I don't know. Is that chaos that comes with that? Is that going to be, is that worthwhile? I mean, you've got Jalen Brunson, who loves and respects his coach to the nth degree. I mean, like, he loves playing for him, and you could say it's a different roster. So we move the goalposts. So either it's the coach or it's not the coach. So different roster. It was still Tibbs players against Bickerstaff's players. He either outcoached him or he didn't. Or is it, I don't like, I think that we get so singularly focused on this stuff. Let's keep in mind, Thibodeau is 4th on the all-time wins list for this team. Like, this is not, and he's won at least one playoff series in each of the last 2 years. Those are things that we haven't done in decades, in 30 years. We did it once before Thibodeau got here in this century. So he may not be the coach to take us to the promised land. But I think if we're going to see this through, he's brought a culture of competence, and let's see what he does in the playoffs. And you know what? If they flame out against Detroit, this is an honest and genuine conversation you have to have, because I feel like we're a more talented team than Detroit. If we beat Detroit and we lose to Boston, did you really expect to beat Boston? Are we going to throw all of that on the coach? I don't know. You can make that decision, but I think in terms of long-term sustainable winning, it's much better to have stability within the organization than it is not. And so, yes, do we all want to get to that next level? Of course we do. But you have to crawl before you can walk. You don't just go from winning 25 games in a season to the Eastern Conference Finals in a year. That's not how the NBA works. And now you've got a roster with 2 new starters that was pretty much put together on the fly in training camp. And you've got, you've gotten good results. You're on pace with one more win to have more regular season wins than you did a year ago when you were without your best player for 15, 16 games. Like, so I think all of this is overblown. But the playoffs are the determining factor, but we're not there yet. So let's not jump off the bridge before we see what's going to happen. And look, if they lose to Detroit in the first round, I think this is extremely valid, but to make a move at this juncture in the season, I think is suicide. So
you mean about actually, you're talking about actually firing Tibbs now? Oh yeah. I mean, listen, I think the concerns going into the playoffs are fair, right? Can Tom Thibodeau put in the right rotation pieces at the right time to either meet what another team is doing or take advantage of the other team? Can he do that? When do we need a 2 big lineup? When do we need to have, more shooters in the game? When do we need to, maybe Hart doesn't play that much this series because we need more shooting. Maybe it's like, I think all of that is fair game. Can he adjust to the adjustments that other teams are making? I think all of that is fair game. For me, my issue is not wanting to see it play out. People calling to fire him right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, relax. Tom Thibodeau is on. Once you get to this point where you have a team that is capable, even if I feel Boston and Cleveland's rosters are better, this is not a trash roster, right? So this is money time, so to speak. This is where Tom Thibodeau is going to be judged. How does this team perform in the playoffs? My thing is, let it play out. People want to fight him right now just based on the philosophy. And I'm saying, let it play itself out, because if it's not going to work, he's going to be found out. You know what I mean? You're going to be found out in the playoffs. And if you can't make it past the first or second round, year after year, I don't even know how many year after year after year he's going to get. I'm going to say year after year, then you get fired. That's just how it works. My thing is people calling for him to be fired right now before letting it play itself out. That's all I'm saying. Freezy?
I disagree. Right.
Okay.
And so here's the thing. I think the roster is good enough to coach itself to the second round. As a matter of fact, if I ask both of y'all right now, what's your low water mark for this team? I am certain that the both of you will say the low water mark for this team is the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
Right. And so is Tom Thibodeau an additive? Because if he is a detractor, then why is he here? Because if our low watermark is this team, the roster itself, just the human beings on the roster, is a second round team. Where's the additive? What's the coach? Why is he here?
So you're saying that he's supposed to coach the team to the Eastern Conference Finals if they're not bet? I mean, come on, it can happen, Freezy. Don't get me wrong, it can happen.
Right. I mean, Indiana made it last year, so things can happen
off the backs of an injured Milwaukee team and an injured Knicks team. Like I mean, so it happened, Freezy, because both teams were significantly injured.
Right.
If Boston is significantly injured, the Knicks might make it to the Eastern Conference Finals too. Like I think that's a big. So basically, what you're saying is, if the team doesn't overachieve, you shouldn't be able to coach. You should lose your job, because that's basically what you're asking. If you're asking them to beat Boston.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying this: if we didn't have a coach and you looked at the roster, you would say this is still a second round team, right? And so what you would do is want to have a leader that's going to get this team to get the best out of the personnel that they have.
I agree, but what is that though? What's the best? Is the best beating Boston? Is that what you consider the best, or is the best a 6-game series, a 5-game series? What do you consider getting the best out of them in the second round?
Well, okay, that's a great question. I just want to answer that in pieces. So the first part that you said, beating Boston, Boston's the champ. They've only lost 2 games since March 1st, right? So beating Boston in a playoff series by anyone would take a Herculean effort. Even Cleveland, if somehow, and I know it won't happen, but even Cleveland is going to have a challenge beating Boston, because Boston is just that good, right? The part about the additive part, like what does Tom Thibodeau add to a team that we feel like is already a second round team without any coaches? I think you're right. A competitive second round series, keeping in mind that Boston is the defending NBA champs, and they're playing probably their best basketball right now, and they're not even at full strength, right? So if you're in the grand scheme of things, am I looking for Tibbs to beat Boston in the second round or whatever? I'm looking for the Knicks to be competitive against Boston in that second round. If the Knicks win, they win. If they lose in game 6, if they lose in game 7 in Boston Garden or whatever, I would say those two things are similar in the achievement category. Now, in the goal category, our goal here is to win a title, right? But if they lose to Boston in 6 or 7 games, how can you complain about that, especially if it looks competitive? But my question is, at this point, with so many, and I like to assume that when people speak about these things, I like to assume that people are smart, right? And so when you have so many people pointing out these things about what Tom Thibodeau does great and what is a work in progress, I would say that both sides could be valid. Like I am one that believes he's coaching for his job. And I have seen since Jalen Brunson has been out, I have seen an improvement in OG Anunoby. I've seen an improvement in Mikal Bridges. I've seen an improvement in Cat on the boards and defensively. I think that Tom Thibodeau has had a positive impact on a lot of these players on the roster. I've even seen Landry. I've noticed that Landry Shamet has started to come around, right? The impact of Tom Thibodeau getting him a little bit better. Now, do I think
You
Landry
think that's
Shamet?
Tom though? I mean, I'm curious about this. When players don't play well, at least you've given him credit when they do play well. Kind of
Right.
what I'm hearing is that when players don't play well, Tom Thibodeau is not putting them in places in which they can be at their best. Then when they start playing well, the player has just stepped up. Not that Tom Thibodeau has
I
done
think
any,
those two. I think those two things are different, right? I think playing well and executing well are two different things,
Mhm.
right?
True.
Playing well, players play, right? Coaches put game plans and schemes out there to execute. I think those two things are different,
Right.
right? So when they execute well, I want to give the coach credit for drawing up something based off what he saw off film, comparing it to what the analytics department says, and then taking it to the players and understanding his players' strengths and weaknesses, having all of those three things together to come up with a scheme that benefits the Knicks. I think he's done an excellent job of changing up. The only thing I think that he maybe miscast a player was the DeLon Wright in Cleveland thing. How do you know DeLon Wright is not comfortable going in a certain direction, and you probably had him on a roster since the All-Star break? I don't know how that slipped through the cracks, but now they know, right? Now they know, and they can adjust, right? So I want to get Tibbs has done so many different things, right? To highlight what players do. For instance, not running pin downs on the baseline for OG Anunoby to get a running start all the way around the perimeter just to catch the ball on the run. Now he's setting screens up at the elbow so OG Anunoby can catch it, right? Because we know he has to play defense too. So you're using his legs on defense, and then when you use his legs on offense, it's going to make his shot flat. And then when he goes 4 for 14, will be upset. So, and to offset that, he catches OG Anunoby off the run with screens higher up on the floor. So OG can still be a dominant scorer and still be a dominant defender at the same time. That's a Tibbs, that's a scheme thing. I want to give him credit for that. I also want to give him credit for knowing that Mikal Bridges is a good creator going right. He's not a guard's guard. So if you have him going in a certain direction, in a certain direction or whatever, right? He can play make a little bit. He did that. I think the games before Portland. By the time the Portland game was Mikal Bridges' crescendo, probably like the best we've probably seen, or the most aggressive we probably saw him offensively. If I remember correctly, it's a long season, so if I get the games,
San Antonio too on Christmas was pretty good.
Yeah, San Antonio on Christmas was great too. Yep, you're right. So I want to give Tibbs credit because I personally think the outcry to get rid of him is so loud that I know that our people in the Garden hear this thing, right? And so I think Tom Thibodeau has been putting these things in place, and you've been seeing the defense look better. You've been seeing guys like OG Anunoby all of a sudden average career highs in scoring when they've been in the league 10 years, and this is the best that they've ever looked. These things don't happen by accident. So just want to give them credit. But when it comes to the regular season, to what Geoff said, right? Geoff said in those games where we're 0-9, what if we were 4-5, 5-4? I understand where Geoff is coming from, and I think it's a very intelligent take. But as a over-obsessed Knicks fan, I can't help it. I'm an over-obsessed Knicks fan, so much so that I have a YouTube channel created to serve it, right?
A good one, no less.
Right. The thing about that is, who cares about if we lose to Washington? What Knicks fans care about most is the clash of the Titans, right? The clash of the Titans is what we rush home from the restaurant for. We don't rush home for the game against Charlotte that starts at 7 instead of 7:30, but we will rush home for Boston in the Garden when you know what I'm saying? Those are the games that we care about. And so we want to be successful and respected in those clashes against the Titans. And that's what puts Knicks fans in an uproar, that when we get into these clashes with the Titans, we fumble the bag, or we look bad in a way that makes us feel like, man, we may as well have kept RJ and Randall here. If this is what we're going to look like, at least we know Randall was not going to get bullied and pushed around. And I know that might seem like a stretch, but these are the type things that we look for. Is Tom Thibodeau an additive in that second round series against Boston? Do we trust Tom Thibodeau to be on equal coaching footing with Joe Mazzulla? And if there is any doubt that one of the oldest coaches in the league is not on equal coaching footing with one of the youngest coaches in the league, then it's fair for us to question Tom Thibodeau as a coach.
I agree. But how would you know? And this is the thing. There are some content creators and Knick fans who could separate process from results.
Right.
Right. There are some content creators, Knick fans, who could say the process, the decision making was good. The players just didn't execute.
Right.
Or like we talked about earlier, that wasn't a good adjustment. That player shouldn't have been in the game. Thank goodness so and so hit the shot. And so, you know, and so it worked out. So for how would you know, for the average Knick fan, how would they know which one of them it is? For the average Knick fan, how would they know whether that was the right decision, wrong decision, that was a scheme issue? Because a lot of us are just looking at the results. And I just don't think that's the way to well, obviously in wins and losses, yes, that's how you judge coaches, wins and losses. But I mean, in terms of if you lose a series, you know, whether it was the coach and his lack of schemes and rotations and adjustment, or the play is not executing. How many of us can tell the difference?
That's a great question.
Because a lot of Knicks fans, it's just about the results. Like even last year, oh, we won the game. Thibodeau was making adjustments. Thibodeau was the same. I can see no difference. We just won the, we just won the game. So I think that's just when I'm listening to Knicks fans. Like if you can articulate it for me and be able to give specifics at this particular point in the game, this was done, this decision was made, I didn't quite understand it, I would have liked to see so-and-so in this, I think that's fine. But a lot of Knicks fans, they don't watch the game that way. It's just about the results. We lost, Tom Thibodeau didn't make adjustments. We won, oh, Tom Thibodeau is great. And that's really not it is. It's some interplay between scheme, rotations, adjustments, and player performance. Because we're not talking about the players enough, in my opinion. Let me just get to this super chat. Paris Doug, appreciate you. Just two things. Run offensive sets for players to get comfortable, familiar shots.
Yep.
And play best defensive philosophy scouted for that opponent. Appreciate you.
Yep. I agree.
Jeff, anything you wanted to?
Well, let me look up one thing right quick. I'm sorry. I want to see something right quick because I see if I can find it.
And I'll just get to some of the chat. Old head Tibbs is not running the same plays as he did in year one. He has made adjustments. I mean, I think we're talking more about in-game adjustments, right? more
Yeah.
so than schemes. When you say same, you must mean winning seasons. Um, Darnell, I hope I got that right. M. Amonte, it's a read and react offense. Bridges had a look at that last shot, but Hart decided to take it himself.
Yeah. That's one of the things, though.
Why was Hart in the game, though? I mean, you can
Why
argue
was Hart in the
that.
game?
Why was Hart in the game?
Well, and
In that
so,
situation?
and Queen, nothing is like, nothing is a bigger rock in my shoe than when people say it's read and react. And I don't think Hooper's under the read and react basically means take what the defense gives you. And offense is supposed to be an attacking offense because to make the defense defend, right? You want to make the defense defend, move their feet, communicate, do all these things. When you're out there and you're just looking like, oh, the defense is doing that, so I'm going to go here. Don't we know that the defense is going to dictate to us what offense we're going to run if we read and react, right? Those offense, you're supposed to be on the offense, attacking, probing, you know what I'm saying, getting into a thing. That's why when we mentioned, when every time Tom Thibodeau says read and react on defense, it makes me think that I'm listening to Buddy Ryan, right? Just don't turn the football over and my defense is going to win it. That's what I hear when I hear him say read and react. On offense, we should be taking advantage of Mikal Bridges in the mid-range. We should be looking to get OG Anunoby 3-4 dunks a game just off the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns can shoot the three and that space would be evacuated, where OG at 6'7", 240 plus pounds and athletic can put today's light NBA wing on his hip and just take him to the rim, right? And if you cut OG Anunoby off at the rim, now you have Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns spotted up, and you have Josh Hart who can cut and rebound, and you have all these things. You're moving. You have all of your parts working together, right? But we don't. Tom Thibodeau, he doesn't speak to us about offense. He says he used general canned terms, and then it's up to the in-depth film watchers, the content creators that watch film, or the players that have played at multiple levels, whether it's elementary school, JV, B team, high school, college, any type of league after that, to understand that offense and defense, right? Offense is just a combination of a few things. It's like cooking, right? There are only a certain number of ingredients out there. It's how you combine these ingredients to get the desired result, right? To get what it is that you want to eat, right? On offense, you can screen, you can cut away, right? You can pop, you can dribble handoff, you can shoot, you can dribble left, dribble right. All these different. It's limited, but how you combine it is what makes it work. And Tom Thibodeau never speaks to that. He never speaks to how he can make OG Anunoby offensively better, or Mikal Bridges offensively better, or Deuce McBride offensively better, right?
Offensively better, how, Freezy? Like, I mean, if what you're saying is putting them in position where you can see more of, more of their skill set, I agree with that. But
Yep.
we also have to keep in mind that Bridges is a third option on a team. On most teams, the third option get what they get off of the first two options. Now, if one of those two go down, then that third option will step up and they'll get more opportunities to show what they can do. The only way Bridges is getting more opportunities is if you playing him with the second team. Because with Cat and Brunson taking the majority of the shots is going to be hard for Bridges to
I don't
shine the
want them to
way.
get more. I don't want them to get. I don't want him taking more shots. I want him to get better looks, right? Like say for instance, he takes 14 shots a game. So instead of him, and here's the other thing too, other thing that you mentioned, and I think it's great that you mentioned that. So if you're the third option, doesn't that mean you're in a perpetual number 2 option once the substitution patterns start?
What do you mean? Like once one of them go out,
right. Once one of those go out,
right. Yes.
So you're in that perpetual number 2 option during the most important stretches of, well, not most important, but the most time in real time. Right. So the first 6-7 minutes of the game are important. The last 6-7 minutes of the game are very important. But that stretch in between, that 30 plus minutes in between, is important also, where Bridges is going to be like this number 2 option, where, say, if he's on the floor with Cameron Payne and Cat, right now he's a secondary playmaker looking to get offense for himself or Cat, right? Or if Cat is off the floor, then he and Brunson are looking to run some type of guard-oriented offense, usually with Mitchell Robinson screening, where you can get cuts and get free run at the rim. So I agree with you. I just wish that there was more imagination with that. And maybe Mikal Bridges is not a number 3 option. We have to consider that also.
I mean, and this is where I go back and forth between, putting players in position to take advantage of their skill set, and then players also stepping up. There's some games where Mikal Bridges is assertive, some games where he's not. That's on Mikal Bridges. So, listen, I'm rooting for Tom Thibodeau, but the bottom line is the playoffs is where it's at. And if he can't prove to win in the playoffs, he's going to be out of a job. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
How much? So if the Knicks lose in the second round to the Celtics in 5 games, are you good with running it back?
I wouldn't fire him. I think Boston is that much better than the Knicks, in my opinion. And maybe I'm out there on a hill by myself as far as that's concerned. But I just think Boston, offensively and defensively, is that much better than the Knicks to me.
Geoff, you feel the same way?
Well, context matters, right? If we lose in 5 games and the 4 losses are all blowouts, I would definitely have to at least pause and consider what you're talking about, because I don't think that Boston is 30 points better than us. Like I don't. Like I think that's
not game in and game out. No, I agree.
Not game in and game out, right? So
correct,
if we're non-competitive except for a gentleman's sweep, then I think that context is different than we're in every game, and Tatum and Porzingis make more plays than Towns and Brunson. That makes it a little bit different, but everybody's under evaluation all the time as far as I'm concerned. My thing is this: the Phoenix Suns have had 2 championship coaches that they've fired in the last 5 years.
Right.
They're going to miss the play-in this year. Miss the play-in, not the playoffs, the play-in.
Hey, Geoff, they fired a 3rd coach that made the finals.
Right. And so, I've seen the coaching carousel of doom, and I'm not saying that there's not a better coach out there than Tom Thibodeau. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it, and I guarantee you this, no matter who we bring in as the head coach, no matter what his pedigree is, no matter how many wins that he's coached us to, no matter how many playoff wins he has, we're going to have issues with him too.
Right.
Because there's no such thing as a coach that we're going to agree with 100% of the time.
Yeah, I mind if I put my fan hat on? Can I put my fan hat on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Get him out of here. Pack him up. Get them out. You don't know. You don't base your all of us have some type of business background. I can imagine, right? I'm just gonna imagine that, right?
Mhm.
When you let somebody go, you don't let them go thinking what the consequence is going to be when you have a wide
Right.
open hiring process. When you let somebody go, you don't have somebody
Right.
walking in the door to fill their job. That's not how you win, because basically you already have a structure in place that you're used to, and you're losing in that structure that you're used to. You get rid of them, and then you open the door for a wide open coaching search because you don't know who the perfect fit is because you didn't interview everybody, right?
Right.
You got to
Right.
open the door wide open and let people externally come in and tell you what's good about your program and what needs to be fixed about your program, right? And if they can implement a plan to fix it, you put a star by their name and they go on to the next round. And then you do that until you find the perfect match. Now, in terms of, because I did the content creator part, right? I was patient. Jeff, I was respectful, right? With the content creator part. You
Yeah,
think?
you're always respectful,
Right.
Freezy.
So now I gotta do the fan part, bro. Yesterday, yesterday, Tom Thibodeau stayed and dropped coverage against a team that did not threaten the rim. How do you put a team, how do you stay and drop coverage when nobody is taking OG and Bridges off the dribble? So you're protecting the rim against Luke Cornett. Since when has Luke Cornett become that much of a threat at the rim where you stay in your traditional defense? If anything, you have to adjust to the other team's personnel. Luke Cornett is not giving you 10 and 10 at the basket. You know how I know? We drafted him. We know who Luke Cornett is.
Yeah, he's not the same player. I agree with you, but he's not the same player he was then. But
No,
I agree with you. I think we spending too much to me, I feel like we spending too much time on firing Tom Thibodeau before the playoffs even start. I get the concern.
I never said that though.
You know, we're gonna see how it plays itself out in the playoff.
You're right. Right.
Say what? You just said get rid of him, get him out of here.
Yeah, at the end of the season.
So
Yeah, at the end of the season, I'm not saying firing that man with 3 games left
right.
to go. That's crazy.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna see how things play out in the playoffs before, you know. But listen, as a front office, I get it. Like a front office could say, knowing what I know about the playoffs, I don't think this is the guy, and it doesn't really matter what happens in the playoffs. I don't like the process, and I'm gonna get rid of him. And front offices do that, and I think that's, you know, I think that's fair. We'll have to wait and see if this is what this front office, if this is their process, or if they're more, it's about the wins. And if we have a good showing in that second half, in that second round, regardless of the process, we're gonna bring them back. We don't really know which way the front office is, the way the front office is thinking. All right. Oh, let me get to the super chat. Super chat. Paris Duggar Queen. Josh is the first option and Bridges is the second option. Teams force on us. Since we don't run offense, they dictate our offense for us. Yeah, I do think we need to, you know, get better with that. I think that's one of my pet peeves. I thought we did a great job in the first half yesterday, just going to Cat repeatedly, no matter who they had on them. Just if it was Jalen Brown, if it was Tatum, if it was Drew, just keep going at him, and he was delivering. The second half, they shut that down. But then what's next? I feel like the Knicks have that type of offense. We can't take away everything, and I think the Knicks just have to do a better job at just figuring out what's next. You take away that, something else is open. What is it? And guys have to shoot better. That wasn't the case last night. Sir, and what executing? Tell Cat, Hart, and Brunson to play better defense. Tibbs can't play defense for Cat. And Brunson, the way OG is scoring, Mikal has become the fourth option, yet we want him to average 20. Let's talk about OG. To me, OG scoring is more opportunistic.
Okay.
He's scoring off of others. He's gonna get a steal in transition. He's gonna bully his way to the basket. I love his body control. I love the fact that he's recognizing the power he has
Right.
to finish at the rim. If he gets an open three off of somebody, not even that open. If he gets a half a look on the three, he's gonna put it up. He's been shooting well. If a guy closes out, he attacks the closeout, like those sorts of things. To me, though, he's not. And I talked about this. I believe it was on the Queen's Court. He's still not at that point where you could put the ball in his hand, and maybe he's on his way and be like, get me a bucket, like where he's gonna create a shot for himself. I just don't see him that way. I see Mikal Bridges more that way, even though Mikal Bridges, in my opinion, is just not aggressive or assertive enough um, for me. Thoughts on OG's Anunoby's ascendance offensively, and where you think it's headed?
You Freezy first, or
No, go ahead,
You
bro.
can go.
okay?
You can go.
Last night was kind of what I thought it was going to be from OG, and I think the difference with Boston is they're so big and they're so switchable. He doesn't create the size advantages that he can against other teams, and so I think that's why you saw one of the reasons you saw a subpar performance from him. I like OG. I'm not sure that I want him to have taken the leap. I think that would be an amazing story. I have to see more before I'm convinced that that's actually the case. And as far as his defense goes, I think his defense was solid last night. I just, he's not, you're not going to get a lot of transition opportunities against Boston. You're not going to get a lot of fast breaks. They get back very well because they shoot a lot of threes, so they're used to getting back in transition. They've got a lot of guys with a lot of length and a lot of size and a lot of strength, so it's tough to really create mismatches for a guy that really you need to get him into his activity most of the time. So, maybe that's just matchups being matchups, and if that's the case, that's a problem because, if we get by Detroit, which is no guarantee, Boston is looming. So we've got to figure it out. But he's not the only one who has to figure it out. I mean, every single one of our wings had a subpar game against Boston. And if you want to look on the bright side, we lost by 2 points in overtime and didn't get a good performance out of any of the three of them. So there are weaknesses to be exploited. I think you could see better games out of Anunoby in the future. But, part of it just comes down to knocking down open shots. And if he gets that three in the corner, it's got to go in. I mean, he was not,
Yeah.
I think he was 0 in the Boston game from three on 4 or 5 attempts.
Yeah, I'm going to say this real quick because I know we went over the Boston game already. I agree with you. Players have to knock down shots. But in these games, every possession counts. Every little move, counts. So I still think it was part players not knocking down shots. And like you said, Jeff, our wings not shooting well. But there was a few, McBride not being in the game. We talked about, all of this, not fouling. Like these are all things, particularly when you're playing good teams, there's not a lot of room for error. Like you gotta be, super, super on point. And the Knicks weren't like Mikal Bridge is not catching, not catching the ball. Anyway, Freezy, your thoughts on OG's emergence offensively?
See, that's not fair. Y'all know OG is my heartstring, man. OG is my heartstring, man. Us Nigerians got to stick together, man. Tibbs, you got to play precious, man. But my thing with OG is I think there is a lot of untapped potential. I think the the thing that OG and Bridges are trying to get used to is the way the spacing is different from the teams where they were compared to the team that they're playing for now. The spacing is a little more odd. It looks different, right? Like, whereas if Josh were a willing shooter, and I'm not knocking Josh, because Josh is a heck of a player. And like most humans, Josh has the great things about him, and then there are some things that are under construction. I'll put it that way, right? And so with Josh not being a willing shooter, because his mindset is being the energy guy, just bring energy. And so with Josh not being a natural scorer, it doesn't present you with the traditional driving angles that say most NBA wings are used to seeing. And so OG having to get used to that is a part of that thing of guys just need time to play. Queen, you said something 2 years ago, and I disagreed with you. And I think about it often where I was wrong, right? I think you mentioned something to me a couple of years ago about chemistry. And I was wrong in thinking that guys don't need to have chemistry. They all know how to play basketball. Your IQ should have you in a place where you could just, but then the more I think about it, the more I think you're absolutely right. Right? Like players need time to play together, because people tell me all the time, like, Uncle Freezy, the Knicks have 2 new starters. And not really. Because when you think about it, OG missed a lot of last season. Right? Mikal Bridges is new. Right? Cat is new. The only 2 guys that basically have chemistry with each other, and you can tell, are Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, right? Because Cameron Payne is new. Landry Shamet is new. And so I understand that things kind of take time and things of that sort. And that's the reason why when we mentioned OG Anunoby's I don't know if it's I think it's his surgence. It's not a resurgence, right?
Yeah.
So his the brand new OG offensively, and I think it's a thing that can be continuous. I think there are some things that he's basically taking advantage of because of his chemistry with a very unselfish player in Josh Hart and a very unselfish team player in Mikal Bridges, where you don't have to be in the perfect spot to put the ball on the deck and drive to the rim. If you just keep moving, these guys will find you. Cat is an excellent passer as a big, right? Josh Hart I think Josh Hart wants to pass first before he even wants to dribble. I think he only dribbles so that he can get to a point where he can pass to a teammate, right? And Bridges is the same way too. Bridges will move. But now Jalen Brunson is in love with the Coco. Y'all know that. This is not breaking news. Jalen Brunson loves the basketball. Jalen Brunson, I legit thought I saw Jalen Brunson propose to a basketball one time, bro. Jalen Brunson loves that basketball. And so much so that when Jalen Brunson was out, and this is no knock on JB, because he's the leader. JB's the leader of this group. But when JB was out, you notice how the basketball moved more freely because these guys are more unselfish when it comes to passing the ball. At first, when I saw it, I was like, hey, man, none of these dudes want to shoot. And then the more I saw Mikal Bridges in the mid-range and OG taking that ball, taking players off the dribble, OG pulling up for 3 and shooting the 3, OG cutting, and Josh Hart hitting cutting guys on time and on target, the more I thought, like, these guys just need time to play together. So when we talk about the OG thing, I think OG's emergence comes from finally getting used to playing with his teammates in a consistent offense. Because remember, last year the offense looked different because we had different type players. And this year, this thing is, the offense looks different because he's got different players. So yes, OG has emerged. It's because they're finally getting into a rhythm. And I honestly believe that at some point we'll see the same thing with Mikal Bridges. I think it'll be less of a get in where you fit in and more of an incorporation of Mikal Bridges. Now, it might happen before the playoffs. It might happen at the beginning of next season. But I think that day soon come also.
Yeah. I will add this, though. Before the All-Star break, the Knicks were playing with Brunson the way they played without Brunson in terms of moving the ball, moving their body. So we do have a large sample size of the Knicks playing that way with Brunson, right? 30 assist games. So it is possible. And I will also say it's not uncommon when your best player is out for the team to move the ball. They have to. Right? You think about when John Morant was out and they have to go with, like, you have to move the ball because you don't really have, that dominant scorer that can break break the defense down and go for theirs. But I agree that if the Knicks are going to win, it's not going to be with Brunson dominating the ball. It's just going to be, spreading it around. That being said, there are going to be times when he's going to have to, when the offense stalls and in crunch time, where he is going to have to take 2, 3, 4 shots in a row if nothing is happening. But that's one of the biggest things I want to see. And then we had a 30 assist game when Brunson came back. Now, he was on a minutes restrict. I think he played like 34 minutes or something like that. But that's another thing I'm looking for in the playoffs. What's this Knicks offense going to look like? Can we find a balance between the times when we need JB to go and get us a bucket and when we need to, kind of spread it around and open up the floor and have cutters and things of that sort. So we shall see. Um, anything else briefly before I just move on to Detroit, who we playing tomorrow? We got 3 players out tomorrow from what I understand. Mitch is out, Hart is out, and one other player is out. Does anybody? Mitch, Hart, and there's one other player that's out tomorrow. Somebody in the chat can refresh my memory.
I didn't hear about the injury report.
OG is out.
OG is out.
OG is out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, OG, man, I forgot the 3 players I just said. OG, Hart, OG, Hart, and Mitch. Yeah. I mean, Mitch, this is just his regular his regular rest.
Yeah. He doesn't play back to back. They're gonna have him play against Cleveland, not against
right.
Detroit.
All right. Anything about the Detroit game and anything about what looks to be the Detroit matchup? We talked about this, I think, on Queen's Court. It doesn't matter to me whether we play Milwaukee or Detroit. Okay. Knicks win in the first round. Period. Point blank. Hard style. Like, I don't want to hear
right
anything about how tough Detroit is and win that series. Period.
Right.
Anything you're looking to see tomorrow? Cade, Harris, Ivy, and Stewart are game time decisions. I mean,
so
at this point,
playing it, the Knicks, like, game time decision means pencil them into the starting lineup, pin them into the starting lineup.
Yeah. Do you think at this point the Knicks should be? Freeze. I know I haven't talked to you about this. The Knicks minutes should be coming down these next few games. Like, Don't even worry about not necessarily you're going to play to win, no doubt about it. But I mean, just bringing the minutes down some for the rest of the season, or do you feel like there is a week between um, the end of the season and the first playoff series anyway where you can rest? What's your thoughts on that? Rest versus rhythm, I call it.
I would like to see, or I would have liked to have seen less minutes and stay in the groove. Like don't turn the car off, just keep the car running. Right. Like you just keep the car running. You know, you're only going to be in the store for like 3 minutes. Just keep the car running. Basically, I would rather have seen that, right, as opposed to just playing regular all the way through. But since guys are out now, unless Tom Thibodeau is going to dig deep into the bench against Detroit tomorrow night, which I
would like to see him do. Yeah.
He may, but Tom Thibodeau is one of those people that live in the moment. Tom Thibodeau is for every second we've seen Tom Thibodeau, he is with his feet off, right? Like
10 toes down.
Yep, he's coaching his heart out, right? He don't care if it's preseason, end of season, any of that stuff. He is where his feet are. And so, you know, tomorrow we may see a situation where guys that probably shouldn't play period are going to play 30 plus minutes because there are already guys that are declared to be out, right? So you may see Cat, especially if this thing is a tussle, right? I'm not saying I want Detroit to blow us out. It's not what I'm saying. But I don't want to see a competitive game where Tom Thibodeau feels like he has to keep playing guys in a competitive game or else there's a threat of losing. And then guys, somebody winds up getting a weird injury, like maybe Cat bangs his hand again, and then it's something lingering into the playoffs. I don't want to see that at all. But we're in a tough spot because Ariel Hukporti is out also. And so it's not like you can sit Cat and Mitch and just play Hukporti and Precious and let them get the bumps and bruises, right?
And OG is out. It's not like you can even go with Precious and OG, right?
Right.
Not that he would do that anyway, but
right. So it's one of those things that I would love to see Brunson get less minutes, but at this point, when that man has missed 15 games, he's not going to want to sit, right? And but the thing is you're not going to tell the Detroit Pistons, probably the most physical team in the league behind the Rockets, you're not going to tell them to dial it back a little bit so that we can all be healthy in a week. They don't care. They don't care about that. So yeah, so I would like to see Cat play 18 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like, 9 minutes in the first quarter and 9 minutes in the second quarter, and then with bandages and warm-ups on for the rest of the game. I would prefer to see that, but I don't think we'll see it.
Yeah, maybe he sits versus Cleveland.
Possibly.
Maybe he sits versus,
But if he sits versus Cleveland, wouldn't you sit him against Brooklyn also?
Yeah. Again, rest versus rhythm. They're going to be off for what, seven days between the play, their last game and the play, if not more, might even be more.
Maybe.
So yeah, we shall see. Yeah. To me, the Knicks are pretty much locked into that third seed, and whatever they do with these next 3 games, I'm not pressed. Quite frankly, 26 to 30 minutes tops. Let some of the younger guys play the back of the bench. How about the bench itself? Shamit, Precious, like those guys, let them play.
Yeah.
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 Anything else? I hope I got to it. Let me see. Did I get to all of the super
I
chats?
think
Although we
Parrish had
liked
one
it.
other
Oh, it's
super.
one more. Okay. Shout out to Parrish. How Parrish Duggar? How did a guy play 48 minutes while turning down shots? Who is this? Josh Hart?
Must
Yeah.
be. Although he didn't turn down shots in the fourth quarter and overtime, he bricked
No.
2 threes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else before we get out of here? Shout out to the chat. Shout out to those who listen to the show and are not in the chat. I forget you guys sometimes. And
Yeah.
shout out to the replay game.
Yeah,
I
one
wanna-
interesting. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro.
One interesting thing about tomorrow is with no OG and no Josh Hart, we really only have Precious and Cat as the only two bigs. I wonder if PJ Tucker gets dusted off the shelf for some minutes, just out of necessity. Because otherwise, you're playing small. Who's going to rebound?
I think Petcombe Daddy A gets some minutes tomorrow. You don't think?
Is he healthy?
I think Daddy A gets some minutes. I didn't hear he wasn't. He's had some injury.
On and off. I
Injury
don't know.
issues?
I would love to see him play. We're just very thin on the front line. Like our best rebounder outside of Cat, of course, is not going to be on the court at all. We've got no backup five, and Precious is probably going to play 36, 38 plus minutes, I would imagine.
Yeah. And I think we'll need that too. We'll need Precious to get some big minutes. The question I have for y'all, I want to ask y'all an easy question. Right.
You never have easy questions for easy. We know that.
No, 70, no,
right?
This is super easy. 79 games in. Do you feel like this season is a success based on how you felt in October after the Cat trade?
Yes.
I mean, for me, the success was always about how the Knicks performed in the playoffs. But you just limiting it to the regular season.
The regular season, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Cat came in right before the season. We got three new starters, and then Brunson missed 16 games, and we still win 50. So if you're just limiting it to the regular season, then yes.
Yeah. And I'm there as well. And how I got here was Mitch didn't play until March 1st. We didn't know that in October. In October, we always thought Mitch was like 3 weeks away. Remember, we were on that 3 week. We'll reevaluate, and it got messed around and pushed back all the way to March 1st, right? Precious missed the first 21 games of the season because he got hurt in the last preseason game. Landry Shamet missed 32 games because he got also hurt in that final preseason game. And then so we had this mishmash of Matt Ryan, Jericho Sims, a bunch of things we were trying to figure out. And here we are on the verge of 53 wins. Now, will we win 53 games? I don't know. Probably not. Who knows? You don't know what Cleveland's going to do the day after tomorrow because they've got everything sewn up also, right? You don't know what Brooklyn's going to be either, right? So here we sit on the verge of 53 wins with Mitch missing 50-something games or something, Brunson missing 15 games, Precious missing 21 games, Deuce missing 17 or so games, Cameron Payne missing just under 10 games, Landry Shamet missing the majority or like 40% of the season, and all these things. Yet here we are, 50-29. We may end up 52-30, 51-31, or whatever, 50-32, whatever the record winds up being. I think this season is a success, especially with Karl Anthony Towns getting here on the eve, basically, of the season.
Yeah, training camp. Yeah.
The Detroit series is the kicker, though, right? Like if it was a successful regular season, but if you come around and you wet your pants against the Pistons, then you have to go see the principal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Listen. Both. We could talk about Thibodeau in that Pistons series. The players got to show up too.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear
Right.
nothing
Right.
about the Pistons or Milwaukee. Nothing.
Right.
Win that series.
And you know what? I would just say this just really quick as an add on to that. If the Knicks lose in the first round, I don't think
Oh,
it's a trip to the principal office. I think it's a parent teacher conference. I think Leon Rose get called into this too, right? Like, how do you know what I'm saying? Like something is gonna have to change because we can't keep offering the fan base these same excuses year after year when 5 years ago we talked about promising a thing, and this summer will be their 7th offseason headed into their 6th regular season,
but
right?
Freezy, this is the first year though that the Knicks have a championship window, in my opinion. Like those years with IQ and RJ Barrett, those weren't championship years. Like
Right.
this is it now. This is the first. This to me, this is the first year of the championship window. You can argue, last year was the first year, and then they tweaked it a little to get to some have argued that. Okay, fine, fine. But
But this is still their 7th offseason.
this is the 4th year.
Right.
Okay, and they've done well to get the Knicks to this point. It's not like they bombed for 7 years. Like they did a good job to get the Knicks right here in their 7th offseason. This is the
Right.
first year, in my opinion, anyway, that they are championship contenders or close to, even if you don't think they are close to. It's just the first year of that.
So I misunderstood what you were saying then, because earlier I was under the impression you meant that this team right now is not a championship team. So clearly I missed something.
Right. So I don't think they're better than Boston, and I don't think they're better than Cleveland. Can they beat them? Yeah, but I don't think they're better than. But what I'm
Okay.
saying is they're either championship contenders or they're close to being championship contenders.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is this is the first year of that.
Right.
So I'm not sure I'm calling the front office on the carpet if the Knicks underperform in the front office. Like you wouldn't call the coach and the players under, you would call the front office and under the front office would be on fire. So basically you're saying that they lost not because the players underperformed, not because the coach didn't do his job, but because the roster wasn't good enough. This roster is good enough to get out the first round. I wouldn't call the front office into question if the Knicks don't get out of the first round. I would put it on the coach and or the players.
Right. So I
Now,
feel you. And
go ahead.
okay, go ahead.
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So the reason why I say that is not because I want Leon Rose gone. That's not what I'm saying.
Mm.
What I'm saying is this. Hey, Leon, when we got here, you said you had a plan, right? And you had 5 full seasons. And here we are, right? Basically, we're better, but we're not incrementally better than we were. Every year we took a step. The international thingy year. I don't want to say the word because I don't want YouTube to put everybody on the blacklist again. But the year where everybody was sick, we don't want to count that year because the Knicks were injured and constantly in that flux of rotation players and bunches were gone. I think the Knicks would have made the playoffs 5 straight seasons if it wasn't for that international incident, right? But at the same time, we didn't bring Leon Rose here and Tom Thibodeau here to be respectable over a 5-year stretch. The goal was to win championships. And if we're talking about going into the 6th offseason, saying give Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau more time, then we have to at least say, hey, listen, how much time are we talking? I think that's a reasonable question to ask.
It took 6 years for them to get. Look, they had to dig out of a hole. It took, if you told me that this was the third or fourth year of the championship window, yeah, it's time to go. The coach should have been gone, you know? But it took them 5 years to get to this point. So I don't get it. Like, we thought that in 5 years the Knicks were gonna go from a 17 win team to winning a championship in 5 years?
Yes.
Like, I feel like it took that. Okay. All right. Well, then they should have traded for OG Anunoby and all of these moves they made in year 3.
Right.
In
Because
year 3.
remember this. 4 years ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers were in the lottery drafting Evan Mobley. And where's Cleveland right now?
So I mean, if you want to say that, but listen, if you want to say that the Knicks should have made their moves faster than they did, then that's fine. That's just a difference of opinion. They should have put together a championship contending team quicker than they did. Like, they took the slow road. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with that, but I'm not gonna get on them because they took the slow road. I mean, was Cat available 3 years ago? Was OG Anunoby available 3 years ago? Did the Knicks
Probably
did the
not.
Knicks have players were good enough? IQ was good enough 3 years ago to put in a trade for OG? You understand what I'm saying? Like, those assets had to grow. I'm not quite sure. And listen, I was super impatient with the Knicks. Don't get me don't get me wrong.
Right, right, right,
I'm not
right.
sure we could have gotten here sooner. Maybe,
Right. Right. What I'm asking
maybe we could
is,
have.
when I pull them on the carpet, I'm asking, and I think this is a fair question. When if the and so I'm not saying that this is bound to happen. I'm only saying, in that worst
Mhm.
case scenario, like the Knicks losing
Right.
in the first round, you pull everybody on the carpet and ask, like, hey, this was embarrassing. What's our plan? What are we doing from here? Because if that happened, if the worst case scenario happened, I don't know if run it back can be a suitable answer.
No, I'm not saying I disagree. I just don't feel that's it's a front office thing. Like, if you want to talk about the players and the coach, I'm not sure. I'm changing the front office.
Right. No, you're asking them what the plan is.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah, what's the plan? Because you already
gotcha,
had
gotcha.
5 years. You can't tell me you need 5 more years. You got to tell me what the plan is. Like, what are we doing here? Right? Like what's our how do we get over this hump? We got to recalibrate. Because if we're plateauing, we need to recognize that we're plateauing and then do some type of self-correction or some guardrails up to correct is what I'm getting at.
Or every championship team, or most championship teams, go through tough times. And it's sometimes the team staying together that forges it. Remember when Milwaukee had the best record in the NBA and they lost to Miami? And there's
Yeah.
there's not Cleveland, Boston, also,
Yeah.
underachieved. So those things happen. Those things happen to a team. You can make changes if you want, or you could bring them back, and sometimes the team is better because of that. Championship teams are forged, and a lot of times pain is a part of it.
Okay.
Campaign.
What do you say? Campaign.
Campaign
Sometimes
is
campaign is
no.
fun.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm really looking forward to the playoffs in this off season.
Yeah.
Um, somebody said something. Um, weren't the Knicks built to win since 2022? No. This is Tibbs' third season with a good roster, but not a championship contending or close to a championship contending roster. You're not going to tell me that 2022 team was close to being a championship contending roster.
So which 2020 is he talking about? The team that lost against Miami?
Yes.
No, that team wasn't. That team was good, but Randall had the 2 ankle sprains, and everybody was just and Tibbs lost us game 6. Quentin Grimes shot that UFO out the corner. Jalen Brunson turned the ball over towards that. It was so much stuff going on. It was the 3 Stooges out there, man. I mean, what do we? But if we'd have won that game 6, we'd have had game 7 in the Garden, and maybe history is different.
Maybe. Appreciate you, Freezy, Geoff. Any last words?
Thanks for visiting, Freezy. Don't be a stranger now. We love having you on the show.
I'm always in the
for
bushes.
sure.
I'm always in the bushes. So.
Hey,
Yeah,
I have that. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check it out yet, but I have that Knicks Nick Tales, the history of the early years of the franchise. You'll like it, Freezy. I've got about 5 episodes written on my blog, so yeah, I know you're a history guy.
I gotta.
Go ahead.
I definitely gotta check it out. I definitely have to check it out. Just want to say thank you, man. I always feel comfortable here. For those that don't know, I mean, Queen Bee and I legitimately are like sister and brother. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, this thing when I get here, I already know I'm gonna be challenged, but I'm gonna be ready to challenge her and Geoff also. But it's only an intellectual challenge, right? Like, like to see, what I'm saying? I like iron sharpening iron, to use an overused cliche. Also want to say thank you for everybody that participated in Queen Bee Chat. Make sure y'all hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Continue to support Knicks content creators as we go about, doing this thing for y'all in our very selfish way. Provide it to y'all, but getting a fix off of doing it at the same time. So Queen Bee, thank you for having me. I'm gonna get out of here and try to eat something healthy real quick before I knock off. So
peace.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you, Freezy. Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't say that I am well versed on, NBA offenses and adjustments. So it was just good to have him come in and just kind of break down what he would have liked to have seen in different situations. And I asked that question not to challenge him, but I just really wanted to understand. So it's just, good to get that level, of, adjustment. Because a lot of times, don't make adjustments. And I'm like, I need something specific. Like that helps me. I need something specific. In the second quarter, when we were down 5, Thibodeau did A, and I thought he should have did B, or I would have liked to have seen him do C. Like those are conversations I can wrap my teeth around. But just he don't make adjustment. He like these generic kind of like I can't get with it. So I appreciate Freezy for coming in here and just really breaking it down. I found it very helpful. Yeah. Geoff, and shout out to the chat, by the way, Geoff.
Yeah, no doubt. Shout out to the chat. Great stuff coming from you guys. You fuel the show. You guys are the coals that keep this fire burning. So we appreciate all of you, especially Parrish, always so generous with the super chats, and others.
Appreciate you.
You guys do a great job. And Queen, the hostess with the mostest, and my dear friend, I love doing this with you. It's such a joy and a pleasure. And
appreciate you.
I was just glad I was able to catch it. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be here, but I'm sure glad that I was.
Yeah. I appreciate you, Jack. Up in the level of the show, since you've been on, it definitely, in my opinion, helped to level up the show. And shout out to the chat. You guys were on fire today, size 9. And we all have differences of opinion. I think that's fine. We can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And I like the fact that that's the community that we have now. So I appreciate you guys for disagreeing, but doing so, respectfully with the panel and with each other. So I do monitor the chat. You guys were on point. Mega, I appreciate you. East Blue Drew, Reggie Clark, size 9. Like I said, Paris Doug, I appreciate you in the super chat on DSNYK. Sherman was in the house today. NYK Bro 99, I appreciate you. Donnell M. Almonte. Let me know if I got that right. Brandon Williams, I appreciate you. Old Head, East Blue Drew. Man, David G, appreciate you. Tori B, I appreciate you as well. Reggie Clark, aka Mr. Gemini 1967. That's a good year, my brother. That is a good year. Anna Grill 1. Been a minute, Anna Grill 1, or am I just not reading the chat? Side Legacy, I appreciate you as well. I'm not going to get to everybody, but I do like to shout you guys out. I thought you guys were just fantastic every week, but particularly this week. David Elbaya, appreciate you. King Ribby, RM, I appreciate you. Keith Turner,
Always.
I love you, Keith Turner. Keith, when it comes to Thibodeau, he don't want to hear nothing, but he's still my guy. Caddy C, I appreciate you as well. Derek, aka D Block, the OG, chiming in from X. It's a pretty long comment, but I think this is the first time. How am I supposed to trust Tibbs in these plays when right before the half, Josh fouls Tatum because we had a foul to give? But when everyone knows you foul on that play, Tibbs know the players don't foul and the game goes into overtime. And Josh says that crazy statement. This team has low IQ, which they have displayed all season long. And I can't trust Tibbs because he doesn't make adjustments when it matters. I mean, that's been the knock. Nostalgic Nick, I appreciate you as well. Anybody that I miss, my apologies again. Shout out to those listening that's not in the chat. Shout out to the replay game. Jeff, I appreciate you. Oh, Ajay was in the building today too.
And Jay
Appreciate
Boogie
him.
was here too.
And Jay Boogie, appreciate you. And happy birthday to my guy, I am Jerrell. That's why he's not with us today. Today is his birthday. So be sure to send a shout out to my guy. Happy birthday, Jerrell. All right, we out of here. Until next time.
Sister, you're one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Dope soul.
Where you at?